quiet your mind. Ever since the Earth has circled the Sun, there have been fantastic tales of wonder and mystery that the faint of heart dare not discuss. But 3 brave, uninformed souls have the brass to tackle every extraordinary happenstance, from the modern age to the dawn of Mantis.
Welcome once again to Dawn of Mantis, true crime, mysteries, and more. Ivan, Joe, and Sam here for another mysterious true crime tale. I don't know why I wanted to
I
do
like it. I like the direction.
I don't know. It is mysterious. Actually, it will always be mysterious.
Yeah, this one will.
Yeah, sadly.
It's the last part of a 6-parter.
It is.
It's been a long journey.
Yeah, it has been.
Been a better journey than Skidmore, though.
Yeah, it actually has. I mean, there's no one to hate that we know because we don't know who it is. So there's no one to and there's no lawyer sticking up for the killer.
Yeah.
Isn't it possible?
I think
that were self-defense killings at the, those are for previous listeners.
Yeah. So somebody will know that one.
Yeah.
That was the most frustrating. There was no other series that we got more frustrated with.
And I'm going to tell you, it's the lawyer. I wasn't even as mad. It's like 100 on the lawyer, 80 on this bully guy.
On Ken.
Yeah.
Ken
Isn't that
McElroy.
weird? I never would have thought that.
Yeah. He was the enabler, man. He
well,
helped him.
yeah, because if it wasn't for him, it would probably be over a lot sooner.
Yeah. The guy should have been in jail years before, but yeah.
We're going to go back to
That'll
talk about.
I know.
Let's talk about that episode for an hour. We haven't done that before. Or 8 hours, or be more than that.
It was over 8. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it wasn't 9 parts.
I think it was 9 part. I think it was our longest one yet.
Anyway, so hey, for those of you that are new out there, sometimes we do multi-parters, and this is the end of a multi-parter. So it's not this isn't our first multi-parter. You go back and check out Buddy Holly.
Oh yeah.
Mikael Roy.
Murder in the Mountains.
Yeah.
Maud Crawford.
That was
a long one. Mm-hmm.
Yep. We are serial without being serial. It's a great podcast too, though.
It is, yeah.
Obviously.
I agree.
Anyway, what's going on, Joe? What do you got for us?
We are at part 6 of the 6-part series. Like I mentioned earlier, the Phantom Killer. We're going to wrap it up, put it to bed, solve the case with this one. Not really. We're not going to solve the case, but we're going to talk about.
We might. You never can tell.
Well, at the end of this, I do have a person that I think I can confidently say I think it was this guy.
Okay.
I think it was Youell Swinney.
I do, yeah, and I'll get into that after. But there are a couple more folks in here, that might be. But
right.
Well, we got to hear about his dad some more now, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Old Stanley. Yeah, out of nowhere, Youell's father, Stanley, entered the case and was rallying hard in defense of his son. Youell had several siblings, like 4 or 5, and Stanley was hitting all of them up to pitch in for Youell's defense to pay for these attorneys. Stanley made it sound like his son had been falsely accused and was the victim of a conspiracy to put him away for the Phantom murders so the police could close the case.
Mm-hmm.
Stanley definitely had a flair for the dramatic, and it showed in the frantic letters he sent to his children. He wrote, quote, "I vow to save my troubled son from the clutches of the law. Youell is an innocent man about to be railroaded by a kangaroo court. Contact a lawyer named Claude Love in El Dorado, Arkansas to look into this case. Please do this at once. I am in bed taking heavy sedatives to keep me going." How do sedatives keep you going? Maybe mentally? Or I don't know. Anyway.
I mean, I guess he needs energy from sleep. So he takes a sedative to sleep and then boom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're thinking in 3D chess. I wasn't.
Oh, I don't know. You're right. That's right to question. Man, these sedatives really keep me going.
Keep me going. Really? Because that's the opposite of what sedatives do.
I've been drinking NyQuil every day to keep me going.
He continues, "If something is not done at once, they will kill him. And my life will be worthless if they should, because I know he is innocent. And those people down there and everywhere would have no respect for any of us if we stood by and let those bandits swear his life away, which I am convinced they will do if they can. Youell is an innocent boy at risk of being cruelly killed."
What if the guy was like one of the guys from Inception? He'd go to sleep and he's trying to plant seeds in the judge's mind. That's what he means.
That's what he meant.
Yep. He's working on his dreams. He's
Yep.
breaking in.
True.
So many layers. You'd have to like that. You'd have to like that movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to track, though, with what you had said from how he was kind of raised, right?
Yeah, we're going to get to that. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that pretty soon of why, was he really just trying to save his boy, or why was he trying to save his boy?
Said troubled. So that's kind of admitting like he is rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Unless he means trouble, like he's in trouble. But I think he means troubled.
He did. And I think this all is going to be more self-serving towards the father.
Yeah.
For his own purposes.
Like the boy is being railroaded because he gets in trouble a lot. And it's like they're trying to pull him off the streets and for good or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I take it right now until you tell me more.
Well, despite all this, you at the end, you'll see, his dad still is not really a great guy.
Okay.
In my opinion. Yeah. The Swinney child who bore the brunt of this onslaught from the father was Cleo Swinney. He was a hardworking, law-abiding man whom everyone respected, right? So nothing like Youell.
Mm-hmm.
Under his father's pressure, Cleo hired Claude Love, it's a hard sentence to read, the attorney from El Dorado that he mentioned in that letter, as well as 2 local attorneys, Ted Goldman and Paul McDonald. We must make it clear that other than sending an endless barrage of letters and phone calls from Missouri, Stanley really didn't do a thing in support of his son. He did, however, come up with a new suspect on his own.
Okay.
He only referred to this new suspect as W, not George Bush.
Strategery.
He claimed he was going to get proof that he needed to show that W was the real Phantom. He's like, it's not Youell, it's this W guy. Just stay tuned because I'm putting stuff together.
Just pictured W. Bush again for some reason. I can't get it out of my mind, even though it couldn't be him.
It wasn't me. No, that was a terrible. Stanley never produced any evidence of this W, though. It never happened. He also vowed many times to sell all of his possessions and furniture to help pay for his son's defense. He never got around to that. Never actually.
Oh, okay.
He never actually provided or contributed a penny, I don't think, to it for all that.
Yeah.
He said that he'd even get a loan from the bank, but he decided the purpose of the loan would not bode well for the minister's reputation, which is where I'd like to point out my theory, what I was just talking about. Stanley really didn't give a shit about Youell's freedom. Instead, he was doing everything he could to not be the father of the Phantom Killer. That's what I think. And that's not
it was already bad enough, all the stuff they could prove. Like he was admitting to a lot of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, he could have been scrambling around just trying to save his reputation.
Yeah, how much more of a failure of a father could you be than if your child turned out to be the Phantom Killer?
But to just jump over on the other side, what if he was a good guy and he was just trying to do damage control just for his family that was actually upstanding, his son and himself and his wife and whoever else he had and his congregation, like it may kill a little town for some guy like that to go down.
Yeah.
Just because of something he never did, something his son did. So I'm just jumping on the other side of that. Just so we're covering both.
That's possible,
both
man.
Bases.
Isn't it possible?
That's right. That's all I'm doing.
You just Gene McFaddened us.
We got a guy in first and third.
Then, nearly 6 months after the last known Phantom Killer murder, came another break in the case. On Thursday, October 24th, a man named P.V. Ward was mending some fence out near Morris Lane.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he was a suspect.
No,
W.
No.
That's him.
It's not W.
Sorry,
for sure.
I thought you were going to say something else. But when you said mending the fence, I totally got what you were about to say.
Yeah, he was.
Sorry to interrupt you.
He was literally fixing fence out near Morris Lane.
Gotcha.
And he discovered a black saxophone case amongst the weeds. Yeah. Everyone in Texarkana was following the Phantom Killer case, and he knew immediately that it was Betty Jo Booker's missing saxophone.
Have to be.
He phoned the police, and soon Deputy Sheriff Zeke Hensley and Officer Jack Runnels were on the scene. They gingerly opened the now weather-beaten case to reveal a gold-plated Bundy E-flat alto sax serial number 52535. It was Betty's. Hensley looked at the hand-drawn map showing where Betty Jo's body had been found. The saxophone was only 140 steps from that location. So however far that is, I don't know how far you're stepping, but not very far. I wouldn't think it'd be very far. That area had been searched several times, but the thicket and brush were just too dense. So it was only when fall came and the foliage had started to die that the saxophone finally became visible.
Yeah.
Both the instrument and its case were taken to the Arkansas Crime Lab and dusted for prints. Of course, none were found. That was one thing I got to say. You know, I said in one of the last episodes that I thought the Phantom Killer, I still don't think he was a genius. I just think he got lucky, a lot.
Yeah, it's just an early time. Like, I just think it'd be easier to get away with stuff.
Yeah.
And you're right. Luck. It seems like a lot of luck.
But we do have to give a little credit. Man, the guy was good at concealing fingerprints. Like, as far as I remember, never left a print.
Yeah.
Man, there were shell casings found, and the flashlight and even the batteries inside the flashlight and anything around the cars, there was just never a print, man.
It'd be a question for one of our law enforcement friends. Like, anything advances, like with technology, I wonder if the ability to pick prints up has advanced. Obviously, there has to be like some material scientist has to find, well, this material is better at peeling it off and preserving or however it works, or this is better dust for, I don't know, developing it or whatever.
Wasn't there something to do with the vapors from Vicks and the tape? Am I crazy?
Oh, I don't know. What do you mean?
I swear, if there was a print, they could hold vapor rub or something under it and whatever
is
that was
from CSI or something.
I don't know. It
sounds like a MacGyver thing.
It might be bull crap.
Yeah, it does sound like a MacGyver. What are you doing? Well, if I heat up this Vicks vapor, well, we wouldn't have said Vicks. It wasn't like MacGyver brought to you by Vicks Vapor Rub. But I mean, whatever he would have said, and it just magically appears. I could see that from an episode of MacGyver.
And then take a little bit and put right here on your throat because it'll help with a sore throat when you're done.
I always do.
And then some people, my mom would rub it on the bottom of my feet.
Yeah,
and then
I use it a lot. I like it.
Yeah,
yeah. I when this winter, I'll use it a lot. It helps me sleep.
Dawn of Mantis brought to you by Vicks Vapor Rub.
Hey, I would give them an endorsement now. I mean, I believe in their product.
I'm excited about that product.
I believe in that product.
Meanwhile, the police were continuing to question the Swinneys. That's Peggy and Youell. As for Youell, he remained insistent that he had nothing to do with the murders, but it seems like he did come close to confessing a few times. In one time in particular, after a long and frustrating interrogation session, Sheriff Bill Scott lost his patience. He grabbed a leather strap and threatened to whip Youell's ass if he didn't start cooperating, and Youell replied, "Okay, I'll do everything. I'll tell you everything. Just don't beat on me." Right?
I mean, that sounds like almost a true confession that you could trust.
Right. You're about to beat the shit out of C. That's the problem. Because if someone comes at me with a baseball bat, I'm going to confess to kidnapping the Lindbergh baby. I'll say whatever you want me to say. Don't hit me. So
that was on Ernest Goes to Camp.
I just watched that today.
He got the shot and he was like, "I did it.
I kidnapped the Lindbergh baby."
That's funny.
Dude, I bet that stuck in my brain a little bit and just can't because I just watched Ernest Goes to Camp today.
Okay, hey, I got to ask you something. Clear your minds right now, just like we say at the beginning. Quiet your mind.
Uh-huh.
If you had to close your eyes and think about an image from the Lindbergh kidnapping, what do you think of?
A ladder.
A ladder. Me too.
Immediately.
Did you get it? I always do.
Yeah.
Every time I think about that ladder against the house.
Yeah.
That may not even be that crazy, but it's so cool that I guarantee if 2 people have it, 2 million people.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they think of.
Immediate before you even know what you're saying.
Slowly zooming into that ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was everything because the ladder was still there,
Yeah.
That was everything.
I don't know why I'm so excited about that. Sorry.
No.
It's just cool.
I cut Joe off just because he mentioned it, and we were just talking about Ernest Goes to Camp, and I was like, "Oh, he was getting his shot."
Yep.
And he admitted to taking taking the Lindbergh baby.
That was like the John Bonet case of that.
Yeah.
Era.
Oh,
it was
huge.
Yeah. But I don't think Charles Lindbergh had anything to do with it.
No.
That was some dark humor.
Dude, I get it. That was good. That was a good one.
Really dark. Actually, I don't know. I don't know.
It was a good joke though.
I don't know.
That was a very Norm Macdonald
It was,
type joke.
Yeah, it kind of was. Yeah, you can tell what I watch. Go play.
Well, just as he's about to beat Swinney, and Swinney's like, "I'll tell everything," right? That's when cooler heads prevailed because Sheriff L.V. Davis entered the room and he shut everything down, right? he was far softer than Sheriff Scott, and once he was there, Youell clammed right back up. So basically, he came in from if I remember right, what I read, he was like, "Hey, everybody, let's call Youell. Come here. I knew your mommy and daddy. I knew your mom. I knew him back when they lived here. Let's just talk a little, right?"
Oh yeah,
And
good
so-
cop, bad cop.
Yeah, but he knew that if a confession coerced by violence is not going to stand. It never does, or it shouldn't. Another time that he had promised to finally tell everything, but wanted to make his confession somewhere safer and further away. All right, probably a valid request considering the very real possibility that an old-fashioned lynch mob could form if word got out that someone had confessed to the phantom slayings.
Mm-hmm.
Although Youell was the main suspect, only he, the police, and his family were aware of that fact. That's something that I don't know that I've brought up yet, but his name at that point had never been associated with the phantom slayings in the papers.
They should be proud of that. That's actually pretty awesome.
It never got out up to that point.
Yeah, I mean, because the other mistakes we've talked about, but that doesn't happen now. It doesn't seem like it. It just seems like it doesn't. Maybe it does, but if it does, good job, because that's good police work. I mean, you want to keep your cards close to your chest. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, you don't need the extra. You don't need somebody with a sniper rifle out there, or arresting somebody that's trying to come in the door with a gun. Like, you don't need that. You need your police power on solving it. So that's good.
Yeah, that's one thing. They got a lot of things right, I think. I don't think.
I know. But
that's a big one.
That's one thing. Yeah, good job.
Eager to finally get their confession, Johnson, Tackett, and Boyd drove Youell to the Hospital of Nervous Diseases in Little Rock. So was that like a precursor to some sort of mental?
I would think that totally seems plausible.
Yeah. Well, it's a little drive down to Little Rock, a couple hours maybe. And, by the time they got there, Youell had changed his mind. So, Tackett kind of always thought they should have struck while the iron was hot.
Yeah.
Instead of, and it may have been just a tactic on Youell's part to be like, I'm going to tell you everything, but drive me 2 or 3 hours this way, and then I'll tell you,
Yeah.
But then he has time to think on the way there, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
Well, as for Peggy, she was being more cooperative. She agreed to be taken to the Department of Public Safety in Austin for a polygraph test. The test was administered by Glenn McLaughlin, chief of the DPS crime lab. Peggy began on April 13th, 1946, and the murders of Paul Martin and Betty Jo Booker were what she talked about.
Okay.
Or maybe, I don't know if she'd brought it up or if that's what they questioned her about, because she was able to kind of talk on her own. We'll get into that.
Okay.
This time, she finally filled in all the blanks she'd left in all her other statements up to that point. Referring to Paul and Betty Jo as the little boy and little girl, she covered every detail of how she and Youell had went out drinking that night and wound up at Spring Lake Park around 3:30 a.m. She said Swinney pulled a gun on the couple and that Youell and her had gotten into the car. He drove the car up a little ways before stopping, leading the little boy, Paul Martin, out of the car and shooting him. After going through the boy's pockets and tossing the address book into the bushes, Youell got back in the car with Peggy and the little girl and drove down the road a little further before turning around and coming back. When they did, they saw that the little boy was not dead and had crawled across the road.
Mm-hmm.
So Swinney stopped, got back out, and shot him 2 additional times. That explains the 4 bullets. So everything's lining up because we kind of glossed over it, but remember the address book was exactly where she said, he had found Sheriff Presley.
Yeah.
Had found it and hadn't told anybody, but Peggy knew where it was. Then after driving up a few hundred feet, Youell and the little girl left the car for about half an hour before returning. Youell then drove back to his and Peggy's car and swapped over to it, taking the little girl's saxophone with them. After driving up around the park by Morris Lane, they stopped the car again and Youell led the girl out into the woods. Peggy said she heard her beginning to beg Youell not to do it before 2 shots rang out. After Youell got back to the car, they stopped and tossed the sax into some bushes. He had initially intended on selling it, but decided it was too hot, which probably would have been true.
Yeah. It was dumb to even take it. So you're right. He wasn't very intelligent if he did that.
And I guess he's wearing gloves this whole time, right? Because if there's no fingerprints on the handle or anything on the saxophone case.
Again, I still want to say that I just don't know how good they were at getting a print back then. I don't know why I keep saying that, but it's just so long ago. I just can't see that being a super efficient technology that long ago. But maybe it was.
And that saxophone had set out in the elements too quite a while.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Because it would be weird. It's like going out drinking and you had some gloves. But unless he just had some work gloves in there. And as soon as he knew he was going to do something shady, you just put them on. I mean, that's totally plausible too.
It is, yeah, because she admitted they went out there specifically to rob someone.
Yeah.
So maybe he's like, all right, got my robbing gloves.
I don't know.
Why is that? That's so stupid. Where's my robbing gloves? No, them's my driving gloves. Them's my medical gloves. Where's my robbing gloves?
Yeah.
Peggy's recollection of that night's events accounted for every detail of Paul and Betty Jo's murders, especially the two main details that Peggy had not been made aware of, the exact location of the saxophone and Paul Martin's address book. Her full statement was written down, and this time she signed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's progress.
That's progress. As far as what McLaughlin and his polygraph made of it, he felt like she was being truthful, and the only deception shown was when she was trying to minimize her involvement. I don't know how he could tell that from her heart rate and perspiration and blood pressure, but that's what he said.
Yeah. Next.
Okay. She always implied that Youell had forced her along and had threatened to kill her if she ever told. Now the police held their breath and hoped that once the time came, Peggy would take the stand to testify against her husband. Either that or the couple would be divorced by then, at which point, Peggy could be forced to testify.
Yeah.
Youell had been charged with grand larceny for the automobile thefts, and detectives had hoped that they could hold him long enough without bond to build the Phantom Killer case against him.
Okay.
Which is a common tactic.
Sure.
Get him on something smaller, and we're going to be able to...
That's right. Yep. Get him off the streets.
Yeah. However, time was running out, and again, investigators were confronted with the fact that although there was a lot of circumstantial evidence, and they were certain Swinney had at least committed the Martin Booker murders, and likely all the murders in their opinion, there just wasn't enough physical evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, especially in a death penalty case.
Sure.
If Peggy flaked out, they'd have no eyewitness. There were no fingerprints. They hadn't located any murder weapon. Even the boot print evidence was of poor quality. On top of all that, even if they moved forward with a murder charge, Youell's father Stanley and his team of lawyers were mounting an insanity defense that, based on some head trauma and emotional abuse Youell had suffered, could actually sway a sympathetic jury, they were afraid. Although the investigators on the case had dreamt of nabbing the Phantom, both for the glory and for the closure for the families, the obvious goal now was to get Swinney off the streets, like you said, and spare further loss of life, whatever way possible, even if it was for a completely different offense, right? And he was never named publicly as the Phantom Killer.
Sure. Yeah.
Enter, and we touched on this at the end of the last episode, I believe, the Habitual Criminal Act. This was a way to lock lifelong chronic offenders up and throw away the key, not based on a single severe offense, but on a criminal's habitual status.
That's right.
Youell had been a frequent flyer in the penal system all his life, with several current charges waiting to be tried, and was currently being held in Arkansas. He was a perfect candidate.
Okay.
So that's why I think you brought up something almost exactly like
3
this.
strikes and you're out.
Yeah.
And how anyone could be against that. Like,
that's
you've
what
been
it was.
convicted so many times. I'm not even say they go to like the worst prison. Like maybe they go to a decent one. It's like, where they get to live fine. I'm not saying pamper them, but still locked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, obviously you're just like, you're not benefiting society. You're not benefiting yourself.
Yep.
Right. Or your family. Like, yeah, it's hard. We don't talk about it a lot, but, and not to support the preacher guy again, because I'm not even thinking about him at all. But like when you have somebody that just constantly breaks the law, think about their mother, their father, their brother, sister, like everybody in their immediate family, they're severely impacted, because I had some uncles like that.
Yeah.
And my parents were affected like that.
Yeah.
Because it was always like my grandma and grandpa had like, issues like bailing the guy out of jail and doing this, doing that.
Always doing damage control.
And they'd get back out and they couldn't get a job because, one, they were too lazy, but one of the biggest problem. But just like 2, they're convicted,
Yep.
It's just like a huge burden for everyone.
Yep.
Not even including the victims. Then you include the victims, and that's a lot of people that are affected by these habitual people.
Did your uncles, did they ever just kind of like age out?
They did kind of age out and calm down. And
Yeah.
now if they go in, it's like just like failure to appear, and it's about something like minor, right?
But they still do sometimes?
Oh, yeah. They just won't.
Wow. So yeah, this habitual criminal act, there was one problem with it. Like I mentioned before, Swinney was being held in Arkansas at the time. So Arkansas did not have that act. Texas is the state that had the habitual criminal act. So, he'd need to be extradited for this thing to work. Interestingly, despite knowing of the Texas habitual criminal act, Youell was all about leaving for Arkansas for Texas. Remember, he didn't know what Peggy had told the police.
Oh.
And many people believe he was more worried about the Starks murders in Arkansas and Arkansas's electric chair than anything going on in Texas.
Okay.
So yeah, of course he has no idea Peggy has completely ratted him out, supposedly, if he's guilty.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this theory is that he was way more terrified about the most recent set of murders, the Starks. And so he's like, yeah, get me out of Arkansas. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. As the extradition process began, Swinney's lawyers, who had no doubt realized what was going on and what was going to happen in Texas, they fought it tooth and nail, but they failed. Swinney was extradited to Texas on December 4th, 1946, and taken 60 miles away from Bowie County to Mount Pleasant in Titus County. Authorities still feared that if word got out about their suspicion of Youell Swinney as the Phantom Killer, the citizens of Bowie County, Cass County, and Texarkana may deal a little vigilante justice.
Isn't the lawyers were using like charges in other states, almost like trying to trade one for the other, like they had a Pokemon card or something. like let's get it over there. It's worse or it's less, less horrible.
Yeah,
might be easier over there. It's like this criminal has options since he's broken the law in several states.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to be a criminal, do it in several states.
Have a diversified criminal portfolio is what I'm trying to say. Like multiple states, and then maybe you'd have a good lawyer that would like try you in Iowa. Maybe they don't do as much.
Right.
Yeah,
they do that.
Yeah.
It's like, man, he's committed crimes here, here, and here. Well, 2 of the 3 have the death penalty.
Yeah.
Let's get him over in whatever state.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's like somewhere where they don't have it.
Yeah.
Like that's the rule. He admits to that one, Your Honor. The rest, he didn't have anything to do with.
Right. I think maybe that's where Ted Bundy screwed up a lot of places.
Yeah,
but
he did.
I don't think Washington, and was it like Utah? I may be wrong about this, but it doesn't seem like they had the death penalty. But that last hurrah when he escaped and made it down to Florida,
and
killed all the sorority girls in Florida had the death penalty case.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe it was Florida where he was executed. Yeah.
And my argument is I don't think criminals think about that. So I don't know. I'm not saying pro or anti, but as a deterrent, I don't know if you think about that.
Yeah, like if a criminal ever raised the gun, it's like, wait a minute, what state am I in? Hold on, let me Google their death penalty status.
Could you kidnap them, take them across state lines?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, because I think you are tried in the state where the offense was committed. So even if you kidnapped them from one state to the other, I think you would be tried in the state in which you killed them. Is that right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure. Again, we need Steve Coppinger or somebody.
There was a Reno 911 episode where they chased a guy and he ran across state lines. And when the guy got past the sign, he was like, "Ah!" and they were like throwing stuff down there. Dang it! It was it was on like when you see a clip of them. That's one of the ones.
One of the famous ones.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like they couldn't just step right across and kidnap or like cuff them.
Yeah. So, like Sheriff Justice, what was he going to do when he caught the bandit? Because he was so far out of his jurisdiction.
Yeah, I know.
I
know the other cops were saying that even.
Yeah.
He didn't even care. He's just like, I'm going to get him in a cussy.
This is not Jermaine. Goddamn Germans got nothing to do with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't care. He was like, I'm getting him. It doesn't matter.
Well, guess what? It's time to bring back Lone Wolf Gonzalez.
Yay! I love it.
Dun,
dun, dun, dun. Lone Wolf to Texas. Dun, 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 dun,
his hair was perfect.
This has to be the Walker Texas Ranger music.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I don't know, Trevette.
The eyes of a ranger are upon.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Hey, that's Chuck Norris singing.
Oh, I guarantee Lone Wolf.
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah. Chuck Norris sang that. The intro
Oh,
music.
wow.
I was not aware of that, dude. Did not know
I
that.
better fact check myself.
I
but
would
I'm
be-
pretty positive
That's amazing. I want to listen to that.
because most of it was talking.
Yeah, that's
He
true.
rapped a little bit, but
I guarantee Lone Wolf would kick somebody. I don't know if it's a roundhouse or anything.
no.
Seems like at some point with them boots, he used them to
And them
his
spurs.
advantage.
Yeah.
And he kicked them by himself. No one else was allowed to kick. What are you doing? I'm going to kick him too. No, don't.
This is the Lone Wolf.
The Lone Wolf only gets to kick.
So yeah, Lone Wolf shows up again. You know what he does?
What does he do?
He almost ruins the whole extradition thing.
No.
Yes.
I'm going to figure out a way to defend him. Go.
All right,
I'll
here we go.
defend him.
Even though he'd left Texarkana months earlier and was back in Dallas, nearly 200 miles away, Lone Wolf was well aware of Swinney and was still talking to reporters about the case. Although he didn't mention any names, Gonzalez told a reporter that the authorities back in Texarkana had a strong suspect and were holding a couple in custody in relation to the Phantom murders.
Okay.
Of course, this started to snowball into another media firestorm until Sheriffs Davis and Presley countered with their own interview in which they dramatically downplayed their interest in the couple they'd arrested and even ended the story by saying that night on the Martin Booker murders, the couple had been sleeping under a bridge near San Antonio. They didn't want people to suspect them.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
wanted the heat off. They knew they really didn't have enough, even though they were sure it was them. They didn't feel like they had enough to get them, on a death penalty case.
Well, Mr. Smarty Pants podcaster, what about the whole scenario that's been used countless times where the law enforcement guy pretends to let something slip to make the people nervous and then they make a mistake?
True.
And that's when the case is solved. So there you go.
That's
Lone
true.
Wolf was doing that. That's what I'm going to say.
They did the Monty Python. Maybe if we make him so cross, he'll make a mistake.
That's right.
Well, it's just a rabbit. Here's what's interesting. If you just look up the Wikipedia Phantom Killers or the Phantom Killings, whatever, if you just look that up on Wikipedia and you scroll down to the bottom where it just says suspects, it lists Youell Swinney, but it only has like a paragraph. And at the end, it says Swinney was no longer considered a suspect when it was discovered that he was sleeping under a bridge in San Antonio during one of the murders. So,
oh, wait, I see what you're saying.
that's what it says on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. I mean, that's what was said at one point, but it was only to divert, he was very much there when it happened. Whether he even did it or not, he was
How
in
would that
Texarkana.
clear him? Like, are they saying that's an alibi?
Yeah, him and Peggy were in a stolen car under a bridge in San Antonio
Yeah, but how is that an alibi?
on the night of the murders.
Yeah, but I mean, who
knew, right?
Yeah,
I
who
get
knew
what you're
other
saying.
than them?
Right.
Like-
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how they said they proved that or something.
Yeah.
Unless like a police officer
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
was like, what do they call that? Loitering
Yeah.
or whatever.
Just went to check on, like, just went to talk to him or whatever. Hey,
Yeah.
what you doing under the bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yep. 15 days after Youell's extradition to Texas, Peggy Swinney was released from jail. Just a few days after that, the Sunday before Christmas, Tillman Johnson and Max Tackett. Oh, good God, listen to this story. This is something I typed, and as I was doing the research, I was like, this is freaking crazy. All right, okay. I got to back up a little bit.
My headphones flew out for a second.
Dudes.
Back on.
This is freaking crazy.
Okay.
What I'm about
I'm
to tell
ready.
you guys.
I'm buckling up.
Dude, hold on to your panties because they're about to get blown off.
Don't have those, but I'll buckle up.
Just a few days after that, the Sunday before Christmas, Tillman Johnson and Max Tackett pulled over a stolen truck on Highway 67 East near Fulton, Arkansas.
Okay.
Everybody with me?
I'm with you.
There were two men in that truck, and Tackett placed them in the patrol vehicle, one in back and one up front beside him, while Johnson followed behind in that stolen truck as they were driving back to the station.
Okay.
After just a few miles, Johnson, who's back behind in the stolen truck, he saw Tackett's police car awkwardly slow to a stop by a culvert. So he stopped the stolen truck and sprinted up to the patrol car. That's when he saw that one of the criminals had pulled a hidden .38 pistol and was holding it to Tackett's stomach. Right? So the one sitting up front as they're driving sneaks out this pistol he has. Boom, pull it over, cop. The gig's up. You're letting me out or whatever. However he said it.
Sounds like a mobster to me. Check for some organized crime.
So Johnson looks in. Tackett's sitting there with a gun being pressed into his stomach, and Tackett says, he's got a gun, watch out. Right after he said that, this dude, boom, shoots a bullet right into his stomach.
Dang.
That dude then leapt from the patrol car and began firing at Johnson. But Johnson was able to grab the man's wrist and move the pistol away. As Johnson and the shooter wrestled over the gun on the ground, the now critically wounded Tackett inside the cop car was fighting the second criminal. Thankfully, on this night, good prevailed, and Tackett was able to pull his own gun, place it under the criminal's chin, and literally, boom, he killed him.
Golly.
Right in the patrol as Tackett's
Holy
bleeding out.
crapola.
Freaking nuts. While Johnson, on the outside, on the ground, managed to control the second man's pistol and empty it into his gut in the gravel. So both cops, like, are, wrestling. One of them's been shot, really badly wounded, and they both, almost at the same time, overcome these criminals, both kill them right there.
Wow.
Crazy, man.
Yeah. So are these guys suspects?
No.
Or is it just are we just talking about these cops?
This is just a crazy, because we've been talking about Tackett and Johnson the whole time.
Sounds like a team works better than somebody working alone. I don't know. There's two of them, though.
But yeah, man, Tackett went on to make a full recovery despite that shot in the belly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, not awesome. That sucks that he went through that, but yeah.
I had to add that story in.
Yeah, that's cool. Like a kind of aside to get to know our characters a
That's
little more.
movie stuff right there.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say they killed those guys and then they liked them for one of the murders or something.
Oh, no. So on January 13th, 1947, Youell Swinney was indicted for felony theft in Bowie County. The offense named, let me see, the first one was the theft of Luther McClure's car. And the grand jurors also noted Swinney's August 28th, 1944 conviction for robbery by assault, as well as the February 11th, 1941 conviction for grand larceny. So these are what they're presenting for this habitual criminal thing.
Okay.
Look at all this stuff he's done.
Yep.
Citing these offenses and utilizing the Habitual Criminal Act, Youell Swinney was given a life sentence and taken to Huntsville Prison as inmate 108586. The authorities had successfully used legal means to put Swinney away for life without ever prosecuting him for the phantom slayings. On April 14th, 1947, 1 year to the day after Betty Jo Booker was murdered, a 16-year-old Texas high girl student named Gloria Donaldson climbed into a bathtub in her Texarkana home and used a shotgun to commit suicide. In her suicide note, she spoke of Betty Jo's murder and her admiration for her. So we're going to just talk about some of the ripple effects.
Repercussions, yeah.
Isn't that wild?
That's crazy.
Man.
Then, seemingly out of nowhere, there was a renewed hope that Youell Swinney could be charged with one or more of the phantom slayings less than 2 years later. You know why?
Why? Did the lady decide she would talk
Yeah,
and testify?
kind of.
Peggy?
In August of 1948, Peggy divorced him.
Oh.
Remember, that was the other thing.
Wait. I'm going to be mad.
What?
Is that, you said it before, but is that one of the main reasons? Like they couldn't before?
Oh,
really?
Yeah, they couldn't force her to testify against her husband. Yeah, the law.
For some reason, I don't remember. We talked about that, but I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah, we were super frustrated that that was
the one person that would be the best
Mhm.
is not allowed to.
Yeah, this whole thing is weird though. Well, first off, there was a fantastic coincidence because Peggy's divorce attorney was a man named Clyde Larry. He was the father of, remember Stretch? Back in the first episode,
Yeah.
Mary Jean Larry,
Yeah.
married Stretch. That was his dad. The divorce attorney was Stretch's dad.
Whoa.
Doesn't really mean anything. It's just a weird coincidence.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Keeping with her pattern of never staying single more than a few days, Peggy immediately married another guy named, and I'm not joking, Buster Rhymer.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's close, man.
Anyone want to do
No, I don't remember how he sounded.
What-
Was
No,
he
I
the-
can't. Like,
Was he the
nobody can
yaw,
rap
yaw,
as-
yaw, 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 woo-ha? Wasn't
Didn't
that
he have
Buster
like a
Rhymer?
real
He raps
gravelly,
so
scratchy?
fast, man.
Didn't he have like a scratchy, gravelly, like type of?
No.
Did he not?
I can't. I remember what he looks like. That's about it. Buster Rhyme. So yeah, that was on the Arkansas side of Texarkana.
That's where he got his name. He was looking through old history books, reading about people.
And he didn't see the R on the end of it. Buster Rhyme. Anyway, Stupid. With her legal connection to Youell Swinney now severed, Peggy could be forced to testify against him, right?
Yep.
Sheriff Presley promptly brought Swinney from prison in Huntsville back to Texarkana. However, Swinney was taken back to prison a month later. Records from this period are now missing, so it is unknown if Peggy somehow dodged her testimony or what happened. Nothing ever came of that, though. After that divorce, nothing ever came of it.
That was hope, but yeah.
Yep. And then, like, so many things are lost from that long ago. So, the records are lost. We'll never know.
I just wonder if a group of people decided just not to do it. I mean, it would be nice, but still, I mean, it's the same result, right?
Yeah. They're like,
does it just waste taxpayer money and time? But I mean, maybe it helps the family with closure.
Yeah.
But if you met with the family, they'd say, well, he's already gone, so let's not drag everyone through a big trial again.
Like he's already going to rot in prison forever.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Uh-oh.
He doesn't.
He doesn't?
Nope.
Probe for good behavior.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. We got one more thing.
Okay.
Another bizarre suicide inspired by the Phantom murders occurred. And this one was right next door to us. This one was in Fayetteville.
Oh, wow. Really?
Mm-hmm. He was Texarkana native H.B. Doodle Tennyson, an 18-year-old student at the U of A. He had attended the same school as Betty Jo back in Texarkana. He even played in the band with her, but he didn't personally know her. He just knew of her. On November 4th, 1948, Doodle wrote a long and rambling confession to the Phantom's murders before killing himself by eating rat poison.
Oh, my. Did he like to draw?
I'm guessing. Doodle? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
One story called him Duty.
Oh.
But the rest, I found 2 or 3 others that said Doodle. So I'm like, yeah, I don't think it was Duty.
Yeah.
They call me Duty. And not D-U-T-I either. I'm talking like D-U-O-O-D-I-E. Sorry.
So he confessed. He's 18 years old.
He confessed.
And he confessed.
He did it.
So he had to do it when he was like 15, 16?
15, 16 years old, yeah. Well, the law in Texarkana made the 4.5-hour trip to Fayetteville to investigate the claims. They quickly concluded that Tennyson was not the Phantom killer, but simply a victim of his own depression and mental illness. Tennyson was brought back to Texarkana and buried in the same cemetery as Virgil Starks and Paul Martin. So that's a little wild history that went along with it.
Yeah.
As far as the story of Youell Swinney, he attempted to file appeals, various writ of habeas corpus, and to be granted parole for the next 2 decades. Each time he was up for parole, a long list of law enforcement officers were there to strongly advise against it, and it would not go through. Meanwhile, Swinney's behavior behind bars wasn't helping. He was often in solitary confinement for any number of infractions, fighting, gambling, and once for being caught in homosexual activities with a fellow inmate. In September of 1972, Swinney filed yet another writ of habeas corpus. This time, he alleged that he had no legal counsel during his 1947 trial, and he pointed out legalities in a 1941 trial that could render it inadmissible. He also said that he had been rejected for parole multiple times due to protests from Bowie County officials, which that part was true. That had to look weird too, because on the books, he was a habitual offender that had never really done more than steal a car. And yet every time he's up for parole, 20 law enforcement officers from 3 counties show up to be like, do not let this man out,
Yeah.
That probably looked weird to someone that didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. We'll get to that. That plays into...
But, I mean, they couldn't have read about it or heard about it to know why.
Yeah.
Like this guy's... But you're right. They're only supposed to be in there for what they're in there for.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Yep. It's
That's
a little
right.
dicey.
Yeah.
On February 20th, 1973, after months of legal back and forth, Judge Nunn denied the writ. But if there's one thing that an old con learns in prison, it's that you've got nothing but time, and time is on your side. By this time, many of the lawmen who had protested Swinney's parole were now dead. Sheriff Presley and Max Tackett had passed away the previous year, and Chief Runnels back in 1966. Also, we need to remember that Swinney's name had never been associated with the Phantom's murders, like I said, so he was officially enduring a life sentence for a car theft and 2 priors, and only one of those was violent. It had been decades, and Swinney was now in his mid-50s. With the need for space to accommodate new violent offenders and aging car thief, wouldn't be wild for him to be released to make room.
It's Shawshank again.
Yeah.
I'm sure they won't raise any fuss. Old con like me.
Con like me. I'm an institutional man now, Andy.
Youell was here.
That's great. The first time I ever watched Shawshank Redemption, I teared up when Brooks did that.
Yeah.
It's like, the old fart just wanted to stay in prison, man.
I know.
God. Like, I got a job bagging groceries down at the Try and Save. My hands hurt. I was like, oh, poor guy. Let him back.
Went to that bench feeding those birds, waiting for old Jake.
Oh, God.
Jake, why couldn't Jake have flown down and...
I keep hoping he might show up.
Selfish crow.
He never does. Oh, God, that's the sad part of that movie.
Some crow flying away, living his own life, forgetting about his friend that raised him from a little chick.
Oh, we wrote a song about Brooks in our band.
You did.
I just remembered that.
It's a good song.
What's it called? I can't
Play
remember.
an acoustic version of it sometime. I don't remember.
We literally wrote a song about Brooks in that movie. That's how much that moved me. I just remembered that. That's like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good song.
Swinney and his attorney kept on filing appeal after appeal, and finally, in the fall of 1973, after 27 years in prison, Youell Swinney was a free man. He unsuccessfully tried to employ several people to help him write a book about how he had been falsely accused of being the Phantom Killer and sent to prison for 27 years, an innocent man.
It's called If I Did It by Youell Swinney.
Well, he didn't get any takers. No one wanted to write this book for him. He lived in Marshall, Texas a while before heading to the Dallas area where he worked construction. But not even 2 years after his hard-earned release, Swinney was back behind bars for counterfeiting and car theft. 2 lifelong habits, it seems. He was given 2 years and sent to a medium security institution in, of all places, Texarkana.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
After less than a month there, Swinney escaped, but was caught within a week. I think it was like 4 days.
They could have put him anywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Texarkana.
Just seems like somebody would have just put him somewhere else and not really said why. You know?
Yeah.
It's funny. Anyway.
Yeah, so he escapes. He's caught in less than a week. He had stolen a car while on the run, so an additional 2 years was added to his sentence.
Mm-hmm.
After this next release, when he was again sent to prison for a felony theft in 1981 and was in and out of federal institutions a few more times before his final parole in the early 90s.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy broke the law for decades.
Oh, yeah, that is crazy.
He was sent to the, I'm wrong. By that time, by the early 90s, I don't want to get ahead of myself, he had suffered a stroke and he was fighting lung cancer. Okay.
Okay.
So that's when he was sent to the South Haven Nursing Center after that final release in Dallas. That's where he died on September 15th, 1994 at the age of 77. No one showed up to claim his body, so it was donated to the University of Texas Health Science Center in Dallas, where it was dissected by hungover medical students.
I love just the way you laid that in there. I want to relate it to something, but I can't. My brain can't find it.
I just want to minimize it where, the great, if you think it was him, the great and mysterious Phantom Killer ended up a naked old man on a slab with some hungover student, like, God, I shouldn't have had that last Jaeger bomb, like cutting his abdomen in half. That's where he ended up.
Yeah.
Boom, that's where he ended up.
Yeah.
In 1976, Charles B. Pierce, the man who brought us The Legend of Boggy Creek, directed and produced The Town That Dreaded Sundown, a film very loosely based on the Texarkana Moonlight.
Yes. I remember the final scene, no spoilers for people, but they chased the guy across the train track.
Yep.
And the guy jumped across and then the train went through.
Yep.
And they never found him.
I think the silliest part was where he kills the girl with the trombone.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was
why even write that if that was just weird? And they couldn't figure out a way to kill her with a saxophone. Pick that reed and like stab her with it.
We need a trombone.
Yeah.
It's like,
let's change the instrument. I mean, golly, you went all the way from a woodwind to a brass. How
True.
Uncultured swine.
That's true.
Surprised he wasn't a drummer.
I love the way your mind works. They went from a woodwind to a brass.
symphony player killer. Boom, boom. I don't know why I thought of that.
God.
It was weird because he like held it and he was like, that's the way it happened in the movie. Do you remember?
Yes.
And it was a knife on the end of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude,
He went for a low E. I don't know. It's so weird.
What if he'd played the flute? Like, God, we have to get
He
imaginative.
puts a knife on the end and he starts dancing around. I don't even know, man. What imagination. It's like if we made a movie, I think that's what it is. If I made one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We can't kill her with a woodwind. I don't know. I don't even.
They're too respectable.
That's right. Kenny G's sure glad.
Kill her with a
he may have
trumpet.
never took off if he would have killed her with a saxophone.
That's true.
Can't listen to Kenny G. All I think about is that Texarkana stuff. Ruin the whole Christmas album for me. What child is this? Turn that off.
Have a phantom killer Christmas. I don't know. We're slashing necks and prices. On May 23rd, he never even used a knife. That was a totally stupid. On May 23rd, 1946, 3 weeks after the Starks attack, a 21-year-old ex-Army Air Force machine gunner named Ralph Bowman turned himself in to the LAPD and stated that he believed he could be the Phantom Killer. He thinks, I think I might be.
Oh, my.
He said that he'd awoken from a psychotic break in the Texarkana area right after the Starks attack, and he had lost his rifle.
Oh,
So
wow.
he comes to, where's my rifle? And then he reads the paper. Shit, I think I probably killed all them
Was
people.
it a 32 caliber rifle?
I don't even know. Didn't even see.
Did he know any deets? Did he know anything about these cases? No.
Nothing accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fearing he'd done something, he hitchhiked across the country and counties, several, read right, Joey, to Los Angeles. And when he hit LA, that's where he decided, God, I just got to turn myself in. So he went to the LAPD and he turned himself in. The LAPD took his confession, immediately dismissed it because everything was wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Like, first off, we were in a Piggly Wiggly parking lot. They're like, all right, already go. You need to leave. Wait,
Yeah.
no, we were in the theater, Lover's Lane. Lover's Lane. Yes, that's where it was. Anyway.
Poor guy remembers killings like I think about the coffee pot. Did I turn that off? God, man. I might be guilty of not turning the coffee pot off.
Yeah, you ever like, you're half an hour from home going somewhere and you're like,
I think about that. Yeah.
did I?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It felt very much like that.
With my wife, it's her hair straightener.
Oh yeah,
All the
that's,
time.
That's not good.
Because we'll be like 15 minutes from the house, going the opposite direction. And I'll be like, did you turn your hair straightener off? And she's like, well, damn it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And I'm like, oh, what do we do?
Yeah, I know. I
Everyone's
hate
done
that
that.
kind of stuff. You have to call somebody.
And one of our
As a
old
key to the
houses
house.
has a permanently brown stripe on the, what do you call that?
Vanity.
The vanity, because of that. Yeah, because it had been left on.
Yeah.
Anywho's,
Yeah.
that's probably something everybody's went through. Marriage,
it
right?
is.
Am I right?
Am I
Women,
right?
they're all the same. Sorry, stupid.
We lost some subs.
No,
what happened?
we absolutely love our lady. Hey, most true crime fans are ladies.
They are?
Yeah. Oh, by a large percentage. Yeah. Most
Cool.
are. Yeah. So we're screwed. Maybe. I don't know. I think we have a few lady listeners.
Yeah.
I know we do. All right. Then another man claiming to be the Phantom Killer turned himself into police. This guy was a 36-year-old man named Robert Chandler. He was from Stamps, Arkansas. Now, this is a speck on the map about 30 miles east of Texarkana. At first glance, it was believable that Chandler could have been a serial killer. From what I read, I didn't see a picture of him, but it was written that he was, quote, a bizarre-looking character with a ghostly face and arms covered in scars.
Okay. Wow.
He stood well over 6 feet tall and weighed 225, and I don't know why that. It was written as though those were characteristics of, he probably did it. He was tall, and he weighed 225.
I don't trust tall guys.
All the girls think they're hot. Chandler said he had beaten Hollis and Larry, as well as committed all those murders. His conscience has started to bother him, and so that's why those scars were on his arms. He started punishing himself by just snuffing out lucky strikes.
Oh,
Why'd
man.
you have to do it, Robert? Right?
Yeah.
That's what he was doing. Chandler was briefly held in the Miller County Jail, where Tackett, the badass, interviewed him many times. Ultimately, he was disregarded as a suspect because the details of his confession did not match the evidence. He said he had badly mutilated one of the girls' bodies, course, none of the bodies ever were. He'd also mentioned that he had shot Katie Starks with a .410 over and under. That's not the correct caliber.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. There's a couple of things they dismissed him.
I wonder if they convinced him at the very end of that he was innocent. Like, hey, you couldn't have done it. Nothing matches up. And he starts looking at his arms. He's like, oh, man. I was convinced. Yeah.
Stop putting cigarettes out on yourself, man.
Yeah.
You didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You're better than that. I don't know. Because I kind of feel like to do that, I feel like he might have believed it himself.
And felt bad about it, you know?
Yeah.
Poor guy felt guilty about something he didn't even do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Poor guy.
So it's been more than 77 years since the final known phantom attacks on Virgil and Katie Starks. But there are so many questions left to answer. There are those with doubts that all 4 attacks were even committed by the same man. If they were, though, who was that man? Many believe that Youell Swinney was the phantom. There certainly was a lot of circumstantial evidence, but zero physical evidence. The belief in Swinney's guilt mostly stems from the statements made by his ex-wife, Peggy, and those statements were compelling based mainly on 2 factors: her knowledge of the locations of where Betty Jo Booker's saxophone was and Paul Martin's address book, like we've mentioned. But what if she discovered that information by some other means? Or was it just a lucky guess? She was taken to the area by police and pointed at a bush. Was there just a random chance that there was something there? I don't know. I'm throwing out ideas.
Yeah.
Whatever you believe, it is certainly an amazing story and a case that I fear will never be solved. Investigation tools and forensics were just too primitive in the 1940s, and none of the people or evidence associated with the case are around today. Personally, like I said at the outset, I believe Youell Swinney is the phantom killer, as did many of the lawmen who investigated the case at the time in the years since. The main source for the research in this series came from James Presley's book, The Phantom Killer. And if you would like to read the rest of this incredible story, I would read that book. I can't recommend it enough. Okay, guys. What's your thoughts? Was it Youell?
Probably for the one where the girl had all the, just unless some new cop let her like take the case file home or something.
Yeah.
Or like somebody gave too much information to somebody and, that's the only way I think that they're not responsible for that one. She said it's too many things.
Because I really went deep on that. I was like, what if she was sitting in her cell one day and like Presley walked by in the hall, and was like, well, I'll tell you what'll really be the storyteller is if someone, finds out I found this address book in that bush or whatever.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there's just stuff
it could have.
you don't think of.
It could have been.
But having said all that, I think it was Youell Swinney.
Yeah.
I really do, man. I think it was.
I do too.
Mhm.
I mean, barring something weird like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nothing else ever happened after he was apprehended.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'm innocent. It's like, why did it all stop?
And it's weird because playing devil's advocate, he never was suspected of killing again, years later after
Sure.
but he was older by then. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But I think it was Youell Swinney. I think there's too much circumstantial evidence. I would like to know if any, the cars that he was known and admitted to have stolen, if there were no prints on them either.
Oh, yeah. That would be good to know. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
That would totally be good to know.
Maybe he was always wearing like driving gloves, though.
Yeah.
Which
wasn't uncommon.
Yeah.
So that's why it's called a glove box.
Yeah.
I blew my daughter's mind the other day because she had mentioned something about the glove box, and I was like, you know why they call it a glove box? Because literally, you just keep your driving gloves in there.
Yeah. And I think it's because the early cars didn't have very good heat and a lot of wind came in, and everyone always, you guys know this, they always had gloves on.
It was the whole thing. It's like those old drawings. They're actually accurate where the guy driving the car has like goggles and like a scarf and driving gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because a lot of them were open top and you were kind of in the elements and stuff.
Sure.
Plus, they didn't have a cushioned steering wheel like we have now.
That's true.
It's like hard steering wheel.
Hard. Yeah. Metal. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. When I drive my Rambler, it's very different. First off, the steering wheel's 44 inches across.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Got a little play in it.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
It well, actually not that much for an old car, but anyway, it's a very different experience. But Anyway, yeah, that's it, guys. 4174 Mantis.
Yep.
Let us know if you were the Phantom Killer and you're 112 now. Let us know. Or what, really, whoever you thought it was. But yeah, that's it. I'd like to know what people think.
Yeah. Give us a call. Great series, Joe. Good job on this one.
Thank you,
This is
sirs.
one I knew we would probably do eventually. It's just too close to home, even though it's a pretty popular case. We can do a popular one every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy at work, I got to say, Brian, he listens to every episode. Brian, I'm going to shout you out because he comes out and talks to me about these episodes sometimes.
Yeah.
He works at the same place that I do. And I was bringing up some really big, like Jean Bonnet and some real big cases. And I was like, the huge ones like that, we just kind of stay away from because they've been done. And he was like, yeah, but they haven't been done by you guys.
Ooh.
He's like, you do them all differently. And
We do.
And I was like, dude.
If someone
You just
did
blew
them
my
like
mind.
if someone did them like us, I would be so surprised.
I would too.
It
Yeah.
would be so
No one's
surprising.
covered Jean Bonnet and went on a 20-minute rant about cornflakes in the middle of it.
That's true.
Oh, you're right. We got to give it our flavor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. So, yeah, great series. Yeah.
Go to YouTube, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Instagram.
Just imagine
hit all
yourself
the
doing it and do
socials.
it.
Don Amanda's podcast.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
We're
do that.
terrible at self-promoting. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, do those things. All right. We love y'all. Good night.
Let me tell you about some fellas I know, named Ivan, Sam, and Joe. They got themselves a little podcast, And they talk about everything under the sun that they find interesting, spooky, or fun. And they sure ain't trying to impress no one. The remedy to too much time on your hands is take a little listen to the dawn of Mantis. They talk about killers, monsters, and cults, French maids from hell, disappeared folks. Occasionally throw in a few dad jokes. They try to make every story extra nice by adding their own ginger spice. Not one time or two, but thrice. The remedy to too much time on your hands is take a little listen to the dawn of Mantis. Now I'm sure these fellas will be around for quite a spell, 'cause there sure ain't no shortage of stories to tell. 'Cause this old world's as weird as hell. But hell, even if nobody listened, they'd maintain a fine disposition, 'cause shooting the breeze is kind of their mission. The remedy to too much time on your hands is take a little listen to the dawn of Mantis. The remedy to too much time on your hands is take a little listen to the dawn of Mantis.